Hi everyone, it's Heidi from flutterbyheidi.co.uk. I'm Heidi Smith. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator based in the United Kingdom. And of course, it's Fun Fold Day today. And I'm actually kind of mixing some things that I wouldn't have necessarily thought to put together. So I'm using Bright and Beautiful DSP. Wasn't going to buy this, and then I saw my friends using it and kind of went, it's actually really pretty. So it is really bright, but there are some lovely colours in there. So we've got these more subtle shades, which I love, of the sort of Fresh Frisian Bubble Bath. 6x6 paper, 4 sheets each of 12 designs. But on the back we've got some lovely stars, some sort of ombre effects with some, again, more muted stripes. We've got a lovely sort of, again, shading. And it's almost kind of more pastel-y kind of versions of the colours, almost a stamped off version. Love this paper. That was the one that actually sold it to me. Some yellow stripes, lovely kind of almost bokeh effect dots. Lemon lime twist, but again, so all of these, although I first thought, oh, they're really bright colours, but actually they're, they are more muted. So we've got some Lost Lagoon in there as well. Lovely kind of rainbow effect. I love this stars paper. That's the one I'm going to use. And this confetti paper. I remember we had a stamp set that had like a confetti stamp in that a while ago, which was lovely. Again, the stars, stripes, and that's pretty. So kind of when I really looked at it in person, and that's where I know some when I do a class, seeing it in the in the real world really does make a difference, because you kind of go, oh, actually I could work with that. I'm actually pairing it with Textured Floral, lovely floral stamp set, super sentiments as well, and dies that coordinate too. So that's really useful to have that, so you can really get those. I'm just taking my sentiment out because I'm going to want that in a moment. So I'm just going to pop that. So this is one where the handwriting font is kind of offset with the typeface. So I just use my grid paper to help line that up. So as you can see, I've got my dies in here. You've also got with these dies some lovely accent pieces, so super foliage ones here and a centre as well. I'm not using those in this project because this is what we're doing. So we're doing a little modified envelope and a little mini DL card. I've done these I did a Joyfold version a while ago, but I thought it was great fun. Really simple. It's actually a really simple fold, and it's like kind of half of a napkin fold card, and it does actually stand up. You won't be able to see that, but it stands up like that. You kind of get that effect, and I've just added those flowers, and obviously with the birthday blooms for you, and you can just see simple triangles of DSP that we've got to add to that. So that's what I'm going to do. You'll see I've kind of used Lemon Lime Twist. I'd forgotten what a lovely colour Lemon Lime Twist is, but you'll see I've still got my old ink pad as well. That's how long I've had mine. So that's what we're doing. And as I say, a little modified envelope. So using our standard envelope, just modifying it, adding a bit of DSP to the bottom, just so that we've got one that actually that will fit into. And then when you close it, all that happens is you kind of overlap those. And obviously the birthday blooms for you then kind of fits with that. And this just fits into that envelope like so. So let's get started. I think if we start off with some stamping and modifying our envelope. So I'm going to do the envelope first. So I'm just going to score. So take your envelope. There's your flap there. And I'm just going to take that down to about 3 1/4 inches, about 8.2 centimetres. And just score along there, simple as that. And then all we're going to do now is grab some snips. No, not my ribbon snips, and I'm going to just cut at a very slight angle right up to that score line like so. Then I'm going to come in and use that score line as your guide. In fact, what I'm actually going to do, I've forgotten, I'm just going to trim that outside edge off as well, the bottom fold. You don't need it. That's why I couldn't get my scissors in. Okay. So it's this flap here we're going to actually just cut away. And it's going to be covered up, so don't worry if it is not perfect. So you're just going to cut along here. Like so. Fold up. In fact, I think I actually only did it by about a centimetre, but it doesn't actually matter too much which way it is. But once it's folded up, just add a bit of adhesive along there. And there's our little modified envelope. You could just put it straight in, but I just think it's nice if the envelope looks like it fits more. So I'm going to grab some fresh freesia. I'm going to grab my lemon lime twist and some bubble bath as well. My stamping. My ink pads are still very juicy, so I'm just going to come in and use back of a teaspoon just to push some of that ink away from the surface. Obviously wipe that in between, because Stampin' Up, obviously, because the ink pads, when you close your Stampin' Up ink pad, it means the ink pad is actually stored face down, so that way. And that means that it brings the ink to the surface, which is great, but what it does mean is that occasionally, and make sure you clean it properly, not like I did there, which is actually get some lemon lime twist on it. But it does mean that if they are super inky and they're fairly new, then sometimes it can make it a little bit too inky. So I'm going to use my large flower, and I'm just going to stamp that in fresh freesia. I'm going to grab some lemon lime twist actually for the centre there. So. Then I'm going to stamp my two smaller flowers actually in bubble bath. And I'm going to do a couple of leaves of these smaller sprigs. So these are the ones that I'm going to use on those diagonals. And then let's have one of the larger sprigs for the very front. And you'll see this is actually one of the kit blocks. So if you buy one of the stamping kits, you end up with a block, and it is so useful to have as extras. They're not quite as thick as a standard one, but they are useful, and they're great if you're out and about as well. So if you're going to a craft club or a class and you need to take your own blocks, they're perfect. They just don't take up quite so much space. So now what I want to do is I'm going to stamp some of my flowers just in bubble bath, nice and light around the edge there. And I'm going to overstamp that with my birthday blooms for you in fresh freesia. Oh, and this piece of card, this is it is 13 centimetres by 6 centimetres. So I think that's all my stamping done. Pop my ink pads closed so I don't have any more accidents. And what I will do with that is I will blot that in a little and then add a bit of re-inker to cover it up. Just a useful tip. So that's going to go to one side. And now we want to add our use our dies on here. So on here you'll see that I have got so because I've got 2 of each of those, I'm just going to cut those up. So that leaves a little scrap there. And it just enables me to have a bit more space between my dies, so I don't get anything overlapping. Bit of scrap, that'll be perfect for die cutting later. So add your die, just line it up. These are quite sketchy ones, so if you're not 100% perfect, it isn't going to matter. I always use a bit of post-it note tape just to keep it in place. and it can be reused several times. Then when it gets a little bit, you know, raggedy or doesn't stick anymore, so just line those up over the top. And then let's pop those through my die cutting machine. I'll be back in a moment. So let's pop those dies back. And you see on my second one I remembered to stamp the centre, so I shall just do that as well. I do try it if I can and remember to put those straight back into my magnetic sheet in my stamp case, just because otherwise I know what I'm like, I will knock it on the floor because my natural disorganised state means that's what will happen. Right, okay, so there are my flowers for the front, there are my leaves for the middle, and there's my panel. So I thought I'd use this DSP here, and because I've used fresh freesia I thought I'd have a fresh freesia layer in there. So this layer is 13.5 by 6.5 centimetres, and then we're going to cut some DSP. Now we want a couple of pieces that, if I show you my original card. So what we actually want is we want two larger pieces that we're going to cut the corner off, which will give us two of the pieces, and then we want another two squares as well to add in. So whatever paper you decide to go, you're going to cut this down to 6.5 centimetres. I'm going to do one at 6.5 centimetres. This piece here, I'm just going to cut a centimetre strip off that, because that's going to go onto my envelope. And then a couple of other scraps as well. And again, this is where, you know, whatever you've got left over, these should be 6.5 already. So I'm just going to trim one down to, again, 6.5. And a second piece down to, let's check, it is, yeah, 6.5 by 6.5. Like so. Cut those in half diagonally. So I'm just lining the points up with the track. And then you want to cut from the middle up and down, and that saves you squashing the points. So again, just line that up. Then I want to trim these pieces of DSP down to 13.5. And these little bits, those will be great for adding to envelopes, the inside of a card. And I'm going to do blueberry bushels, so I'm just going to keep that down. So that's a deeper blue end. Now the next thing I want to do is mark the edges on these, because what you want to do is you want one for the decide which is going to be your front and which is your inside. So this is going to be my inside piece. So I want to mark the left hand edge, so it's that edge there. So again, 6.5, and just make a little mark. Line that mark up with the point, and that's going to give us our little triangle, and that's my inside piece. Then for my front, I want this edge. So the top edge, so I'm just going to mark the top edge, 6.5, do the same again, just line that mark up with the diagonal. So we've got a left and a right piece, and then we've got our 6 little triangles, And then we've got a strip for our envelope as well. So now, to actually create the card base, I've got a piece of card which is 21 centimetres, so 8¼ inches, and that is by 14 centimetres. So, again, we're going to do a little bit of marking. So you're going to mark, imagine, we're going to be marking this top edge at 14. Okay. So we're going to score diagonally at 14. Make sure it's really well lined up. I'm then going to score down the middle of that short edge at 7. And then I'm going to mark on my corner at 7. And I'm going to score a second diagonal. So from this score line to this mark. And then finally, I'm going to line that up and score across at 7. So there you go. So you've scored down the middle, across at 7, and then you've scored 2 diagonals. And it's as easy as that. So now we need to fold and burnish these. So when you're doing that, just make sure you're lining those up really well. Remove our little tick marks as we go along. And I'm just burnishing these in the if you like, in the direction of that score line to start off with, because we are going to fold some of those back on themselves. Okay, so that's what it's going to look like. We've got diagonals. So now to fold it, these 2 diagonals here are actually going to fold back on themselves. So the main diagonal back on itself, and the small diagonal back on itself. So that then creates a little flap. And just burnish that well down. You'll see it just makes a really pretty pattern. And then you can go ahead and decorate. Like so. Now, with these, you will find that that just fits in just like so and tucks up. It gives a very narrow border, but it's easier than trying to cut sort of tiny little millimetres. Okay. Flip over. Notice what a little mark by erasable pens. If some of you were worried about me using red, well, guess what? It's fine. So now we want to use something as a contrast here. So it depends whether you want the same pattern or something different. I'm going to use my 2 pieces of like my bokeh design there. And I'm using Tombow here for my adhesive, simply because it just makes it much easier to have a little bit of wiggle room, particularly when you're lining up sort of points of triangles. Yeah, let's pop that in there. That leaves us with 2 for the front. So I'm going to add I think I'll add my stars to the front there. That adds a nice contrast when you open it up to that confetti one. And then on the reverse, I'm just going to add one into the corner here as well. And obviously you can decorate as much or as little as you like of these. Oh. I think it's rather fun to have a kind of patchwork effect. If you prefer it all to be the same, then that's as fine too. And then all I'm going to do is just add my strip of DSP across the envelope, bottom of the envelope. Now it is slightly shorter than the envelope, so you know, decide what you want to do. I'm just going to cut an angle across there. You can cut a flag end onto it as well if you want to. Doesn't show up quite as well because obviously this is sort of the background of the paper is white. But it just adds a little bit of interest to it. So all that remains is to add our flowers. So while it's open, what you want to do is you want to make sure that these leaves stay within the bounds of the card. Because if they do, then you know that they're not going to interfere with the envelope. So I'm gluing my leaves on flush. So leaf in there. My second leaf is going to come down here, and I'm just making sure to add the glue to the top edge and to glue it above that diagonal score line. And you see, so you've got those coming out. And I'm going to do the same with this large leaf. I'm just going to add a layer of adhesive across the top there. And that's going to pop like so. Now we're into dimensional territory. So I am going to add a dimensional onto these just because I think it helps with the final effect. I'm shaping those in my bone folder and make them a little bit more realistic. Just add your flowers. On the corner. And if you're wondering how I came up with this one, not only is it like a napkin fold, I'm going to give you a sneak peek of a new fold I've created as well. So how about that one? So you can see where my idea came from, the evolution of ideas. And then pop that flower again, just making sure that it's not going over the outside. Then when you fold it, just fold the first one in, the second, fold the top back, fold the first in, the second in, and then your top flower goes over the top. That can then go straight into your envelope, like so, and there we have it. So an easy fun fold, a little bit different, bit of a corner fold. I hope you like it. Let me know what you think, and yeah, come back and see me again soon. If you want to purchase the Bright and Beautiful paper or the textured floral stamp set, it's available on Stampin' Up website. Just choose me as your demonstrator when you check out, because I really appreciate it, and obviously the commission I receive goes towards funding my free tutorials for you. So click on the like, subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Come back and see me soon. Bye now.